Captain Jack Reynolds had a knack for two things: making friends and making trouble. Unfortunately for the galaxy, the Galactic Confederation didn't understand which was which. "So you're telling me," Jack said, floating in the sterile white reception chamber of the GCS Harmony, "that you've been watching Earth for the past century and decided now was the time to say hello?" He adjusted his regulation uniform and flashed his trademark grin at the three aliens standing before him. The tallest of the three, a spindly being with translucent blue skin and too many eyes, bobbed what passed for its head. "Correct, Human Reynolds. Your species has finally achieved sufficient technological advancement to warrant formal introduction to the Galactic Confederation." "Just call me Jack," he replied, extending a hand. "And you are?" The alien stared at Jack's outstretched hand like it might bite. "I am Chief Administrator Nextel of the First Contact Division. These are my associates, Biological Specialist Greel and Cultural Observer Pippa." Greel resembled a walking fern with tentacles, while Pippa looked almost human except for her purple skin and the fact that her mouth was where an ear should be. "Pippa, huh? That's surprisingly easy to pronounce," Jack remarked. "It is not my real name," she said through her ear mouth. "My actual designation contains 14 syllables and 3 subsonic tones. We have selected appropriate phonetic approximations for your comfort." Thoughtful, Jack nodded. "So what's the protocol here? I'm the first human to make official contact with your confederation. Do we exchange gifts? Sign treaties? Throw a party?" The aliens exchanged glances that Jack couldn't interpret. Nextel's extra eyes blinked in sequence. "First, we must conduct standard biological examinations to establish baseline parameters for your species," Nextel explained. "Then cultural exchange followed by provisional membership discussions." Jack shrugged. "Sounds reasonable, just don't probe anywhere fun without buying me dinner first." He winked. None of the aliens reacted to his joke. "Tough crowd. Please follow Specialist Greel to the examination chamber," Nextel instructed. "The procedure is routine and harmless." Jack followed the walking fern down a curved corridor. "So how many species are in this confederation of yours?" The Galactic Confederation currently comprises 247 fully recognized species and 89 provisional members. Greel's voice rustled like leaves in wind. "Humans will be categorized as observation status until diplomatic relations are established." "Cool, cool," Jack nodded. "And how long have you guys been around?" "The Confederation was formalized approximately 40,000 of your Earth years ago," Greel replied. "Though interstellar cooperation between the founding species dates back much further." They entered a circular room filled with equipment that looked like a cross between medical instruments and modern art. A floating platform dominated the center. "Please disrobe and position yourself on the examination platform," Greel instructed. Jack raised an eyebrow. "You know, on Earth, we usually exchange insurance information before getting naked." Greel's tentacles writhed in what might have been confusion. "I do not understand this reference." "Never mind." Jack sighed, unbuttoning his uniform. "Just another human joke. You guys are going to have to work on your sense of humor." Once positioned on the platform, Jack watched as various instruments descended from the ceiling. "These are scanning devices," Greel explained. "They will analyze your biological composition without invasive procedures." "Appreciate it," Jack replied, trying to relax. This wasn't exactly how he'd imagined first contact would go. In the movies there were usually grand speeches about unity and the future of both civilizations. Instead, he was naked on a table being scanned by a talking plant. The first few minutes proceeded without incident. Lights of various colors passed over his body while displays around the room filled with data. "Fascinating," Greel commented. "Your species has remarkable regenerative capabilities compared to most carbon-based life forms." "Thanks, I grew it myself," Jack quipped. Then something beeped alarmingly. Greel's tentacles stiffened. "What's that?" Jack asked, suddenly concerned. "A minor anomaly," Greel assured him. "We will need to extract a tissue sample." Before Jack could respond, a thin metallic arm descended from the ceiling, ending in something that looked unsettlingly like a cookie cutter. "Whoa, hold on," Jack started to sit up. "Let's talk about this. Please remain still," Greel insisted. "The extraction is painless and necessary." The device moved towards Jack's chest. "I'm not comfortable with it. Is standard procedure." Greel interrupted, manipulating controls on a nearby console. "All species representatives undergo the same examination." The device made contact with Jack's skin. He felt a brief cold sensation. Then everything went wrong. The machine emitted a high-pitched whine. Jack felt a searing pain shoot through his chest. Alarms began blaring throughout the room. System malfunction. Greel's voice lost its calm tone. Initiating emergency protocols, Jack couldn't respond. The pain was overwhelming. He glimpsed Greel frantically manipulating controls, tentacles flying across multiple interfaces. Biological incompatibility detected, an automated voice announced. Extraction process compromised. Jack's vision began to blur. He tried to speak but couldn't form words. The last thing he saw was Nextel rushing into the room, all eyes widened in what might have been alarm. "Terminate the procedure," Nextel ordered. But it was too late. "Regrettable," Nextel said, gazing down at Jack Reynolds' motionless form. The extraction process triggered an unexpected autoimmune response. The human's biological defense mechanisms were unusually aggressive. Greel explained, tentacles drooping in what might have been the fern equivalent of distress. When the extractor initiated the standard molecular separation, the human cells attacked the device's nanoprobes, causing a cascade failure. Pippa tilted her head, ear-mouth contorting. "How will this affect diplomatic relations?" Nextel's eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of careful consideration. "We will follow standard protocol for accidental specimen loss. The Earth authorities will be notified and offered replacement compensation. Should we prepare additional containment measures?" Pippa asked. "Other species have occasionally responded negatively to specimen loss." "Unnecessary," Nextel dismissed the concern. "The pattern is consistent across evolving civilizations. They will express ritualistic outrage, we will offer appropriate compensation, they will accept. It is the way of newly contacted species." Greel moved to a console and began entering data. "I have prepared the incident report. Shall I include a recommendation for replacement diplomat selection?" "Yes," Nextel confirmed. "Specify our preference for a specimen with fewer biological anomalies. Perhaps one from their equatorial regions." "What compensation package is appropriate?" Pippa inquired. Nextel considered briefly. "Standard level 3 should suffice. Access to basic atmospheric cleaning technology and artificial food production methodologies. Nothing that would accelerate their development inappropriately." "And the body?" Greel asked. "Preserve it for return," Nextel ordered. "Most species have disposal rituals they prefer to conduct themselves." The three aliens moved efficiently, preparing the diplomatic notification and specimen return protocols. None of them seemed particularly concerned. After all, this wasn't the first time a first contact examination had resulted in specimen loss. It was in their vast experience a regrettable but ultimately insignificant setback in the greater process of welcoming a new species to the galactic community. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that humans were different from any species they had encountered before. And they had just made a terrible mistake. General Dana Martinez was having a spectacularly boring Thursday until the alien transmission arrived. "Ma'am," her aide appeared at her office door, face pale. "You need to see this." 5 minutes later, she sat motionless in the UN Space Command's secure communications room, staring at the holographic message from something calling itself the Galactic Confederation. "Regret to inform Earth authorities that Human Reynolds experienced terminal biological incompatibility during standard examination procedures." The blue alien with too many eyes explained with all the emotion of someone reporting mild rain. "We have prepared the specimen for return and offer level 3 compensation technology as is customary. Please designate coordinates for body delivery and replacement diplomat selection." The transmission ended. The room remained silent. "They killed Jack," Martinez finally said. Her voice was eerily calm. "And they're offering us a prize package." "Yes, ma'am," her aide confirmed. Martinez stood abruptly. "Call the Security Council. Now." 2 hours later, the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council was underway. Representatives from every major nation sat in stunned silence as they reviewed the alien message. "They're acting like they ran over our dog," the Russian representative muttered. "Worse," the British ambassador replied. "They're acting like they broke our toaster." President Okafor of the African Union leaned forward. "The question is, how do we respond?" General Martinez stepped to the podium. "Our options are limited. We have no way to match their technology. A military response is impossible. So we just accept their compensation." China's delegate asked incredulously. No, Martinez's eyes narrowed. We make them regret ever hearing about humans. How? Several voices asked simultaneously. A slow, dangerous smile spread across Martinez's face. They expect us to behave like every other species they've encountered. So we won't. Captain Reynolds was a friend. He was also a prankster who believed the best revenge wasn't served cold. It was served weird. She tapped her tablet, bringing up a personnel file. I propose Operation Petty Revenge led by Commander Vikram Patel, the troublemaker from Luna Base. Someone asked. The very same. Martinez nodded. While we appear to accept their offer diplomatically, we send Patel's team to make the Confederation's life interesting. To everyone's surprise, the plan received unanimous approval within minutes. When Chief Administrator Nextel received Earth's response, his many eyes blinked in confusion. They've accepted our compensation offer, he told his colleagues. And they're sending a new diplomatic delegation. As expected, Pippa nodded. Another predictable species response. Perhaps, Nextel replied, scanning the message again. But there's something odd about their communication tone. How so? Greel inquired. It seems overly accommodating, Nextel said, almost as if they're pleased about the incident. Primitive species often mask aggression with submission, Pippa suggested. It's a survival mechanism. Yes, Nextel agreed, but couldn't shake his unease. Still implement standard security protocols for the new delegation's arrival. None of them noticed the small unauthorized probe that had already attached itself to their ship's hull, quietly bypassing their supposedly impenetrable security systems. The humans were coming, and they weren't bringing replacement diplomats. Commander Vikram Patel had been demoted 3 times in his military career, for what his superiors called excessive creativity in the face of protocol. Now, as he stood before his hand-picked team in the cramped bay of the stealth ship Mosquito, that same creativity made him the perfect man for the job. Ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereupon, he announced. Welcome to Operation Petty Revenge. Our mission is simple: make the aliens who killed Captain Reynolds regret ever messing with humans without starting an interstellar war. His team was an assortment of individuals whose personnel files all contained some variation of the phrase, brilliant but problematic. There was Lieutenant Maya Okonkwo, computer specialist and reformed hacker, Dr. Theo Fleming, xenobiologist with an unfortunate penchant for practical jokes, Sergeant Carlos Glitch Rodriguez, engineer and demolitions expert, and Quinn Henderson, whose official role was cultural analyst but whose actual specialty was, as they put it, creative chaos. The Galactic Confederation expects us to act like every other species they've encountered, Vic continued. To roll over, accept their compensation, and politely ask for another chance to join their club. We're going to show them how humans handle grief, with elaborate soul-satisfying pettiness. Quinn raised a hand. Just to clarify, we're not assassinating anyone, right? Because I only brought the non-lethal stuff. Correct, Vic nodded. No killing. Our job is to be the most annoying guests the galaxy has ever seen. We want them alive to experience the full effect. Maya tapped on her tablet. I've already infiltrated their network. Their security is advanced but surprisingly straightforward. No lateral thinking. They protect against attacks they've seen before, but they've never encountered human hackers. Good, Vic grinned. Dr. Fleming, what have we learned about their biology? Theo flicked his screen, projecting images of various alien species. The Confederation has 27 main species in leadership positions. I've analyzed their biological weaknesses, sensory thresholds and irritation triggers. For example, Nextel's species has hypersensitive photoreceptors. Their eyes can detect a broader spectrum than ours, which makes them vulnerable to certain light frequencies. Excellent. Vic rubbed his hands together. Rodriguez. Equipment status. Locked and loaded, Commander. Glitch patted a large crate. Got everything from modified sonic disruptors to what I'm calling sensory confusion grenades. All non-lethal, all untraceable, all guaranteed to make alien life miserable. Perfect, Vic said as the Mosquito slipped undetected toward the massive Confederation headquarters station. Remember, we're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to teach them that killing one human gets them the attention of all humans, and not the kind they want. The infiltration was laughably easy. Using the credentials extracted from the probe they'd attached to Nextel's ship, Maya bypassed the station's security systems while Quinn expertly forged diplomatic identifications. They entered as part of a trade delegation from a species called the Vorlex, wearing perception filter masks that made them appear as bulky, furred creatures. Phase 1. Vic whispered through their secure comms. Initiate Operation Inconvenience. Maya nodded, her fingers dancing across her portable terminal. Throughout the station, small, almost imperceptible changes began occurring in the environmental systems. Temperature controls fluctuated by 2 degrees in random sections. Gravity increased by 3% in some corridors, and decreased by the same in others. Lighting brightened and dimmed in patterns just noticeable enough to be irritating. Meanwhile, Theo and Glitch planted their special devices in strategic locations. Air circulation systems now carried carefully formulated compounds, not harmful but designed to trigger mild sensory responses in specific alien physiologies. For some, it would make food taste slightly wrong. For others, it would cause an almost imperceptible ringing in their auditory organs. Phase 2, Vic commanded after the team regrouped. Targeted disruptions. This was Quinn's specialty. They had studied the Confederation's bureaucratic systems and identified critical weak points. With surgical precision, they began introducing small errors into data transmissions. Meeting schedules shifted by 15 minutes without notification. Translation systems occasionally substituted inappropriate words during important discussions. Resource allocation requests were duplicated or mysteriously lost. By the third day, the station was in a state of low-grade chaos. No one had been hurt, but nothing was working quite right. The Confederation leadership was experiencing something they'd never encountered before: coordinated, creative human-style inconvenience. Something is wrong with the station, Nextel declared, all eyes blinking asynchronously in distress. The Administrative Council had gathered for an emergency meeting after a week of escalating problems. The environmental systems are malfunctioning, complained Ambassador Crone, whose gelatinous body was particularly sensitive to temperature changes. My living quarters oscillate between uncomfortably warm and uncomfortably cool. The food synthesis units are producing abnormal results, added Representative Zool, a insectoid being. Everything tastes like what humans call iminpo, but wrong somehow. And the communication system randomly switches to untranslated Blixian poetry during critical negotiations. Director Volex's antenna twitched in agitation. Nextel's eyes narrowed. All these issues began shortly after we received notification that the human delegation was delayed. I find this concerning. Surely you're not suggesting the humans are responsible, Pippa scoffed. They don't have the technology to infiltrate our systems. Perhaps we underestimated them. Nextel replied, increase security protocols and initiate a full system diagnostic. But the diagnostics found nothing. There was no evidence of tampering, no unauthorized access, no malicious code. Everything appeared to be working correctly. It just wasn't. On the 10th day, Operation Petty Revenge entered its final phase. The team gathered in their hidden base within an unused maintenance section of the station. Time for the coup de grace, Vic announced. Maya, initiate the Ghost Protocol. Maya's fingers flew across her terminal. Uploading now. Every system will experience random failures at random intervals with no discernible pattern. Theo, release the mimetic virus, Vic continued. Theo grinned wickedly. Already done. By tomorrow, every member of the Confederation will be unconsciously whistling the same Earth tune. It's a small world after all. They won't know why they can't stop. Glitch the farewell gift, Rodriguez patted a small device lovingly, ready to plant in Nextel's private quarters. It'll create a small spatial anomaly that will make him feel like he's constantly being watched. Not harmful, just unsettling. And Quinn? Vic turned to the cultural analyst. Quinn held up a data crystal. Their official records now contain 17 different versions of the incident with Captain Reynolds, all slightly contradictory. Their bureaucracy will tie itself in knots trying to determine which is correct. Vic smiled with satisfaction. Excellent. We've created no lasting damage, harmed no one, violated no major galactic laws, and yet we've ensured that the Galactic Confederation will never forget what happens when you mess with humans. As they prepared to extract, leaving behind a station full of increasingly paranoid aliens, Vic couldn't help but think that Jack Reynolds would have approved. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't violent or dramatic, it was just incredibly meticulously annoying. And the aliens hadn't seen anything yet. While Vic's team had been implementing their campaign of irritation, Ambassador Eleanor Wong was preparing for the diplomatic phase of Earth's response. The real negotiations were about to begin, and the Confederation had no idea what they were in for. Ambassador Eleanor Wong had built her diplomatic career on being unpredictable. Where others saw diplomacy as chess, she treated it like jazz, improvisational, surprising, and occasionally discordant. Now, as she approached the Galactic Confederation's headquarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Passive-Aggressive, she prepared for her greatest performance. "Ambassador, we're docking in 5 minutes," her aide informed her. Eleanor nodded, reviewing her unusual briefing materials one last time. General Martinez's instructions had been clear. Don't negotiate like a human diplomat. Negotiate like a human customer service representative dealing with entitled customers. When the airlock opened, Eleanor stepped through with perfect poise, flanked by her team of equally composed diplomats. They wore expressions that retail workers everywhere would recognize, pleasant smiles that never quite reached their eyes. Nextel awaited them, all eyes blinking in what might have been nervousness. The station had experienced 2 weeks of inexplicable technical difficulties, mysterious noises, and staff reporting feelings of being watched. "Ambassador Wong," Nextel greeted her. "We welcome Earth's diplomatic delegation and hope to resolve the unfortunate incident with Specimen Reynolds expeditiously." Eleanor's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "How kind of you to mention Captain Reynolds. We're so pleased you're ready to discuss appropriate reparations." "Reparations?" Nextel's eyes blinked in sequence. "We have already offered the standard Level 3 compensation package." "Yes," Eleanor nodded pleasantly. "We received your initial offer. It was adorable." The translation system struggled momentarily with adorable, eventually settling on a Confederation term typically used to describe the behavior of non-sentient pets. "I don't understand," Nextel said, leading them toward the conference room. "The compensation package is standardized across all species." "How fascinating," Eleanor replied, her tone suggesting it was anything but. "Before we begin formal negotiations, we must observe certain human diplomatic traditions. I'm sure a sophisticated entity like the Confederation respects the cultural practices of its members." "Of course," Nextel agreed cautiously. "What do these traditions entail?" Eleanor gestured to her aides, who began unpacking strange items from their diplomatic cases. "First, all participants must wear these special headgear during negotiations." She held up what were clearly paper party hats with elastic chin straps. "These are ceremonial?" Nextel inquired dubiously. "Absolutely essential," Eleanor confirmed. "Dating back to Earth's ancient diplomatic corps. The height represents the wearer's willingness to achieve mutually beneficial outcomes." The Confederation representatives reluctantly donned the ridiculous hats. "Excellent," Eleanor beamed. "Now, human negotiation protocol requires that all participants must stand on one leg while making initial proposals." "That seems impractical," Pippa objected. "Are you questioning our cultural practices?" Eleanor asked, her voice dripping with disappointment. "I wasn't aware the Confederation discriminated against species traditions. Perhaps that should be our first topic of discussion." For the next 3 hours, Eleanor introduced increasingly absurd human diplomatic requirements. The Confederation representatives had to spin in circles before speaking, use unnecessarily complicated hand gestures, and refer to themselves in third person. Each time they questioned a practice, Eleanor expressed deep cultural offense, referencing obscure Earth treaties and conventions that none of them could verify. By the time they actually began discussing the incident with Jack Reynolds, the Confederation team was exhausted, confused, and standing in a formation that Eleanor insisted was the traditional human negotiation diamond. "Now," Eleanor said, finally allowing everyone to sit, "let's discuss the real compensation package Earth requires." Nextel had askew attempted to regain control. "As previously stated, we offer the standard Level 3 technology package. We're not interested in your technology," Eleanor interrupted. "You aren't?" Nextel's eyes blinked in confusion. "No," Eleanor smiled. "Earth requires something much more valuable: information." "Information," Pippa echoed. "Specifically," Eleanor continued, "we want complete access to all Confederation data networks, unfiltered and unrestricted." The room fell silent. Finally, Nextel spoke. "That is completely impossible. No species has unrestricted access. That would violate countless security protocols. I see, Eleanor nodded understandingly. Then perhaps we could settle for a comprehensive cultural and biological database of all Confederation species. For educational purposes. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. This request was nearly as problematic. Such information could be used to identify weaknesses, vulnerabilities. That would require significant security clearances. Nextel hedged. Oh dear, Eleanor sighed dramatically. It seems we've reached an impasse. Perhaps I should inform Earth's leadership that the Confederation isn't interested in meaningful reparations. I'm sure they'll understand. Just as I'm sure the other 246 species in your organization will understand when we share how the Confederation handles the accidental killing of diplomatic representatives. Are you threatening us? Nextel asked incredulously. Threatening, Eleanor placed a hand over her heart. Goodness, no, I'm simply following the human diplomatic tradition of complete transparency. Is transparency not valued in the Confederation? Nextel and his team huddled together, whispering urgently. We could provide limited access to certain cultural databases, Nextel offered when they broke their huddle. How generous, Eleanor replied. We'll need to perform a sample evaluation first, of course. Sample evaluation, yes, Eleanor nodded. My technical team will need temporary access to verify the data quality. Standard procedure. What Nextel didn't realize was that Eleanor's technical team had been handpicked by Maya Okonkwo, and they had very specific instructions about what to look for in the Confederation's systems. After hours of increasingly circular discussions, the Confederation representatives agreed to provide a cultural data package and allow Earth's team to evaluate it using Confederation terminals. Wonderful progress, Eleanor beamed as the session ended. Before our next meeting, please ensure everyone has memorized the traditional human negotiation song. It's considered deeply offensive to begin without it. She handed out sheet music for what appeared to be a complicated rendition of 99 bottles of beer on the wall. In his private chambers, Nextel removed the ridiculous hat and collapsed into his rest pod. Something was wrong. The humans weren't behaving like any species they'd encountered before. Their requests made no practical sense. Their cultural practices seemed designed specifically to be inconvenient. And why did he constantly feel like someone was watching him? Just as he was about to activate sleep mode, his communication terminal chimed. Chief Administrator, his security director's voice sounded strained. We've detected unusual access patterns in the cultural database terminals. The human evaluation team, yes, they appear to be accessing data far beyond the approved sectors. Their search patterns are concerning. Nextel's unease deepened. What are they searching for? Everything, sir. Species psychological profiles, historical conflict responses, biological vulnerabilities, cultural taboos. They're mapping our entire social structure. Restrict their access immediately, Nextel ordered. We've tried, the security director admitted. Something is overriding our protocols. It's like the system wants to give them the information. For the first time in his long career, Nextel felt a sensation that his species rarely experienced, primitive fear. These humans weren't just negotiating, they were hunting. And the Confederation had made a terrible mistake by inviting them in. News traveled fast in the Galactic Confederation, faster than authorized channels preferred. Have you heard about the humans? This question rippled through alien gatherings across 17 sectors, whispered in space stations, trading posts and diplomatic lounges. The stories grew with each telling. They can hack any system just by looking at it. Their bodies are filled with microscopic machines that can reconstruct them if they die. They consider revenge a recreational activity. They don't experience fear the way normal species do. On the Confederation hub world of Nexus Prime, Representative Zorn of the Viridian Collective cornered a junior Confederation aide at a diplomatic function. Is it true? Zorn's respiratory sacs inflated anxiously. About the humans, which part? The aide asked wearily, having fielded similar questions all evening. That they can detect lies through solid walls, the aide sighed. I'm not authorized to comment on human capabilities. Zorn leaned closer. My government needs to know. We're scheduled for first contact next cycle. Should we postpone? The aide hesitated. Officially, there was no reason to delay first contact protocols with humanity. Unofficially, the Confederation headquarters station had experienced 3 weeks of unexplainable malfunctions. The diplomatic team was performing bizarre rituals while making increasingly invasive information requests, and Chief Administrator Nextel had developed an eye twitch. "I would suggest patience," the aide offered carefully. Across the room, Ambassador Wang moved from group to group, always smiling, always watching. She seemed to appear precisely when aliens were discussing humans, offering cryptic comments that could be interpreted in multiple ways. To a group debating human physical capabilities, "Remarkable, isn't it how appearances can be deceiving? My grandmother is 103 and still practices martial arts." To traders worried about economic competition, "Humans have a saying, the best revenge is living well. We're very focused on living well." To military attachés, No, humans don't have natural predators anymore. We became them." Each comment was followed by her pleasant diplomatic smile and smooth departure, leaving confused aliens in her wake. In a secure conference room deep within Confederation headquarters, an emergency council of species had convened. "The situation is becoming untenable," Nextel reported, one eye visibly twitching. "Rumors about humans are destabilizing established diplomatic relationships. 3 species have already requested postponement of scheduled first contacts." "What exactly are they saying about humans?" asked High Elder Krill of the Ort Federation. "Everything," Pippa answered, her ear-mouth drawn tight with stress. "That they're shapeshifters, telepaths, immortal, vengeful, unpredictable, that they can manipulate technology without touching it." "These are obviously exaggerations," scoffed Counselor Drex. "Are they?" Nextel's eyes blinked in sequence. "We still haven't identified how they infiltrated our systems. Our security teams found evidence of access but no method. It's as if their intrusion leaves no trace. And their diplomatic behavior defies all established protocols," added Pippa. "Ambassador Wang makes impossible requests then retreats to reasonable ones that still give them exactly what they want. They're mapping our entire social structure. Perhaps most concerning," Nextel continued, "is what our cultural analysts have discovered about human history. They resolve internal conflicts through warfare, yet emerge stronger afterward. They form deep emotional attachments to strangers. And they have a concept called disproportionate response." "Meaning?" Krill prompted. "They deliberately escalate beyond reasonable parameters to discourage future transgressions." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "We killed one of them," Krill stated flatly. "A routine examination error," Drex insisted. "It happens occasionally with new species." "Not to them." Nextel's voice was grim. "Humans appear unique in their response to loss. Other species accept compensation. Humans respond." Meanwhile, in the temporary Earth Embassy, Eleanor Wang reviewed the latest intelligence reports with satisfaction. The misinformation campaign was working perfectly. By strategically releasing partial truths and allowing alien imaginations to fill in the gaps, they had created a mythological aura around humanity without saying anything definitively untrue. "Ambassador," her communications officer interrupted. "General Martinez is requesting an update." Eleanor nodded and activated the secure channel. Martinez's face appeared on screen. "Progress report," the general asked without preamble. "Phase 3 completed ahead of schedule," Eleanor reported. "The Confederation is experiencing information paralysis. They can't determine which human capabilities are real and which are fabricated. The uncertainty is causing exactly the psychological impact we anticipated. And our actual intelligence gathering, Maya's team extracted approximately 78% of their central database before they detected the intrusion. We now have detailed profiles on all major Confederation species, their biological characteristics, psychological vulnerabilities, and social structures." Martinez nodded. "Time to implement Phase 4. The Confederation has scheduled an emergency response session for tomorrow. They'll be offering significant concessions," Eleanor predicted. "They're desperate to establish predictable parameters for human behavior." "Good." Martinez's expression was grim but satisfied. "Remind them that predictability is a luxury they lost when they treated Jack like a disposable specimen." As the call ended, Eleanor prepared for the final act in their elaborate psychological operation. The Confederation was about to learn that humans didn't just seek compensation for their losses, they established consequences. And consequences, as the galaxy was learning, were humanity's specialty. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Confederation had never been so quiet. Representatives of 37 key species sat in uncomfortable silence as Ambassador Eleanor Wong stood at the center of the diplomatic floor, her expression pleasant but unyielding. Before her, Chief Administrator Nextel and the highest officials of the Confederation waited anxiously. The mysterious malfunctions throughout their headquarters had suddenly ceased that morning. The human technical team had withdrawn their access requests. Ambassador Wong had requested this special session to present Earth's final position. The galaxy held its breath. Distinguished representatives, Eleanor began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. For 3 weeks you have experienced a small demonstration of humanity's response to the death of Captain Jack Reynolds. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably. You have found your systems compromised in ways your security experts cannot explain. You have endured minor but persistent inconveniences. You have performed what you believed were human diplomatic rituals. A few representatives glanced down at the ridiculous hats they'd been required to wear for the session. And most significantly, Eleanor continued, you have learned to fear humans, not because of what we have done, but because of what you believe we might be capable of doing. Nextel's eye twitch intensified. Ambassador Wong, if you have terms to present. I do, Eleanor interrupted smoothly. But first I want to be absolutely clear about something. Everything you have experienced, every system failure, every strange coincidence, every uncomfortable moment, was orchestrated by a team of 5 humans using technology inferior to yours. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. We did not use advanced weaponry. We did not employ supernatural abilities. We simply understood something that your Confederation, with all its ancient wisdom, failed to grasp. Psychology is the most powerful weapon in the universe. Eleanor paced a slow circle, making eye contact with various representatives. Humans are not telepathic. We cannot see through walls. We cannot reprogram your systems with our minds, but we understand fear. We understand uncertainty. And we understand that imagination is more terrifying than reality. She stopped in front of Nextel. You killed 1 human, and expected a standard response based on your experience with other species. But humans are not standard. When you harm one of us, you face all of us, not because we share a hive mind, but because we share something you clearly lack: empathy. The chamber remained silent, every alien representative hanging on her words. Our terms are simple, Eleanor finally announced. First, the Galactic Confederation will establish the Reynolds Protocol, a new first contact procedure that prohibits invasive examinations without explicit informed consent. Nextel nodded quickly. Acceptable. Second, Earth will receive observer status in the Confederation for 50 standard years before any membership discussions begin. During this time, we will share cultural information but not technology. This is unusual, but acceptable. Nextel agreed. Third, Eleanor's voice hardened slightly. The Confederation will establish a permanent memorial to Captain Jack Reynolds at headquarters, acknowledging that his death led to important reforms in interspecies relations. Nextel hesitated, then nodded again. And finally, Eleanor smiled. You will return Captain Reynolds to us immediately. Of course, Nextel said. His remains have been preserved as you requested. Not his remains, Eleanor corrected. Captain Reynolds. Confusion rippled through the chamber. Nextel's eyes blinked rapidly. I don't understand. Captain Reynolds expired during the examination procedure. This was confirmed. By your standards, Eleanor agreed. But human biology is remarkably resilient, particularly when supported by certain medical technologies we've developed. What you interpreted as death was actually a form of suspended animation triggered by trauma. That's impossible, Pippa objected. Our scanners detected no life signs. Your scanners weren't calibrated for human emergency biological functions, Eleanor explained. Captain Reynolds has been in what we call a cryptobiotic state. With proper medical intervention he can be revived. As if on cue, the chamber doors opened. General Martinez entered, followed by a medical team escorting a stasis pod. Inside, visible through the transparent cover, lay the still form of Captain Jack Reynolds. We'll take him now, Martinez announced, her tone brooking no argument. The Confederation representatives watched in stunned silence as the humans collected their supposedly dead diplomat. One last thing, Eleanor addressed the chamber. The information we extracted from your databases will be held in trust by Earth, neither used nor deleted. Consider it insurance of our mutual good behavior, moving forward. With that, the human delegation departed, leaving behind a chamber full of shaken aliens and one very important lesson: humans were unlike anything the galaxy had encountered before. 6 weeks later, in a secure medical facility on Earth, Captain Jack Reynolds opened his eyes. "Did it work?" he asked, voice raspy from disuse. General Martinez nodded, standing beside his recovery bed. "Perfectly. The Confederation bought our bluff completely." Jack managed a weak smile. "Good timing with the suspended animation story. They'll probably spend years trying to figure out how we did it." "That's the beauty of it," Martinez replied. "They'll never know for sure what was real and what wasn't. Your medical implant did exactly what it was designed to do. It registered your critical condition and transmitted an emergency signal before you died." "But I did die," Jack clarified. "Technically, yes," Martinez admitted. "For about 2 minutes. Then our probe received your implant signal and transmitted it to Earth. We had your complete genetic profile and memory backup from your last required scan." Jack looked down at his body, his new body. "How much of me is original?" "About 30% of your brain tissue, reconstructed cell by cell using the experimental quantum regeneration process. The rest is fresh growth from your own DNA template. Perfect match, down to your appendix SCA, and that tattoo you got in Rio." Jack flexed his fingers, marveling at the miracle of his own existence. "They had no idea what they were dealing with, did they?" "Not a clue," Martinez smiled. "We didn't lie about the emergency protocols. We just let them assume you were in suspended animation rather than explaining our resurrection technology. And my memory. Your backup was only 3 weeks old. You'll have some gaps, but the important stuff is there." Jack nodded slowly, processing this information. "So what now?" "Now," Martinez said, "you recover, and when you're ready, the Confederation has requested that you return as Earth's official observer. Apparently, they're very eager to establish better relations with humanity." Jack laughed, then winced as his new lungs adjusted to the motion. "I bet they are. Nothing like killing a guy to make a first impression. There's one more thing," Martinez added, handing him a data tablet. "Ambassador Wong negotiated an interesting addition to the Reynolds Protocol. Any species seeking Confederation membership must now demonstrate cultural respect by learning about your unique approach to diplomacy." Jack scrolled through the document, a slow grin spreading across his face. "They're using me as a cautionary tale." "More like a cosmic lesson," Martinez corrected. "Don't mess with humans, we take things personally." As Jack Reynolds contemplated his unexpected second chance at life and the galactic ripples his death had caused, somewhere in the vast star-filled expanse of the Galactic Confederation, Chief Administrator Nextel still couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. Because that's the thing about humans, even when they're gone, they leave an impression that would make the galaxy think twice before killing a human ever again.